Hey everyone, we're going to dig right in about our lesson today, and we're talking about focus. We're going to start talking about golf. I have not golfed in about 7 years. I've golfed up until I had kids, and then kind of just you lose the chance to kind of go out and have free time and whatnot. And so I have not golfed in that long. I have clubs. They've been in my garage, been sitting there for 7 years. And a couple weeks ago, Eric Fajarski called and said, "Hey, you want to go golfing?" I said, "Sure, let's go." So I literally had to get my golf clubs out. I had to get my air compressor out and blow off all the cobwebs and everything, like dust it off to where it was somewhat presentable, because I had not used it in so long. It had literally been sitting in the corner of my garage for years. And I checked, make sure I had like 7 or 8 balls. We're going to golf 9 holes, so I figured if I lose a ball per hole, I'm okay. And so we go out, we get to the golf course. Didn't take any practice swings, didn't do anything to prepare. Just literally went up, paid, walked out to the first tee. Well, drove out, because who wants to walk golf when 95-degree heat? So we took a cart, and so we are out there. We get on the first tee, and I'm thinking, like, you're picturing in your head, this is going to go great. This is going to be perfect. I'm going to right down the middle of the fairway, and I tee up the first ball, and I get over the ball, and you look, it's like, man, it's beautiful, it's green, great golf course, and I swing, and I mean, I just shank the thing into the woods. Like, just, it goes like straight and then just takes off to the right, and didn't even bother looking to find the ball. It was so far gone. And all right, tee up another one. All right, same thing, right, but to the other side. And I had not golfed in so long, and you kind of just forget how difficult it is, and you picture in your head how well it's going to go, or at least how well you want it to go. But the issue was, right, that you get distracted by everything else around you. Like, the one thing you should be focusing on is the ball, and when the club swings and hits the ball, you should be focusing on that point. But I got so distracted by everything else around and just played horrible. Good news is I found a ton of balls while we were out golfing. I think I came out with more balls than I went in with. But the thing is, taking your eye off the ball when you're trying to hit it is what happens when you're not focused. And when you're not focused, bad things happen. And the same happens with life, right? The same thing goes on in our lives. There's things we need to focus on. There's important things we need to have our focus and attention on. But when our focus and attention are not on those things, that's when difficult times overwhelm us. That's when things go wrong. That's when it seems like we're being crushed by everything in our life. And then, but the thing is that even when life is crumbling all around us, Jesus is in control. And he's in control of all the storms of life that come at us. Whether that be my parents are getting divorced, whether that be, hey, my school year's not going well, school's not going to look the way I thought it was going to be, my parents are arguing, my parents lost their job, whatever that is, like no one seems to like me, people pick on me, people are jerks, whatever that is, whatever storms those are, right? Jesus is in control in the midst of those as well. And so the question that we are going to answer and look at today is, okay, if Jesus is in control of these storms, and I know storms happen in life, the question is, where is my focus? Is my focus on what it should be, on Jesus, or is my focus on the storms and difficulties and problems of life that surround me? And what should it be on? So we're going to look at a story today about dealing with storms. We're going to look at a story in Matthew chapter 14. If you have your Bible, go ahead and turn there. We are going to dig right into that. And so we're just going to set the scene here. So verse 22, it starts with this. It says, immediately he, meaning Jesus, made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But the boat by this time was a long way from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. So, the scene, right? Jesus had been teaching to crowds, and he had done it the whole day. And it's nighttime, and he sends the crowds away. He tells the disciples, hey, you guys go ahead, get in the boat, head on back to where we're going. And so his disciples get in the boat, and they're rowing, and it obviously takes them a while. And Jesus, after the crowd is gone, he goes to spend some time with God. He spends some time to pray alone. And he prays for a while, but it's in the middle of the night by this time, right? It's pitch black. We're about to see in verse 25, it's talking about, it's in a fourth watch of the night. It's like 3 a.m., like pitch black, not a light to be found. Right? So Jesus sent his disciples away. It's the middle of the night, and there's a storm. The wind and waves start to come. And his disciples are in the middle of the sea in a boat in the middle of this storm. And they are miles away from Jesus by this point. right? They had rowed and rowed and rowed. It's not like, hey, you get in, turn on the motor, you're over there in 30 minutes. Like it's a long journey by rowing. And so they are over there in the middle of the sea, and the storm pops up. And we continue on with verse 24. It says, but the boat by this time was a long way from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night, he came to them, that's Jesus, walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, it is a ghost. And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, take heart, it is I, do not be afraid. Right, so they are alone in the middle of this sea, surrounded by this storm for hours. Pitch black, waves beating their boat, throwing it around. They can't make any headway. They're just stuck in the middle, hoping that this storm ends or that light comes so they can see which way they need to be headed. There's chaos and panic that is overwhelming them. Right? And then they see this figure walking on the water. Jesus decides to go to them. Or Jesus knew what was going to happen. And he knew everything that was going to transpire this night. And he allows them to go by themselves so that he can come out to them. And he comes out walking on the water. And they think it's a ghost. Or it's the middle of the night. The storms are bad. They're terrified. They're fearful. And they're thinking, could this get any worse? Oh, a ghost, right? And it's it's another thing to overwhelm them. And they get to the point to where they're just terrified. And then Jesus speaks. And he says this, he says, take heart, it is I, do not be afraid. Right, that phrase, take heart, means be encouraged. And so let's look at what Jesus is saying here. In the middle of difficult things in life, Jesus shows up, right? And he says, be encouraged, I am here. And because I am here, do not be afraid. Right? Be encouraged because Jesus is there, and also do not be afraid because Jesus is there. That's a powerful lesson for you and I in the middle of the hard times we're going to face in life. Right? The storm is a metaphor for difficult things that life throws at you. And Jesus says, I will show up in the middle of it, and my message to you is be encouraged because I am here with you. Be encouraged because I'm with you. Do not be afraid because I'm with you. Jesus has never promised that storms won't happen, that difficult times won't happen in life, but he has said, I will be with you. I will show up in the middle of the storm to be with you. Jesus' presence, not the absence of difficulty, allows us to be encouraged and reject fear in the middle of hard and difficult things. Jesus is walking on the water. He is above the storm. Jesus is not overwhelmed by the storms and difficulties that overwhelm us. He is above them, and he is a calm in the middle of them. And so this is the situation that has popped up, right? Jesus shows up. They're terrified. They think it's a ghost. And then Jesus says, no, it's not. It's me. I'm here with you. And verse 28 says, and Peter answered him, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. Now, if I'm Peter, I'm not saying, hey, God, if that's really you, Jesus, if that's you, I want you to tell me to come to you on the water. I'd say, Jesus, if that's you, make this stop, right? That would be my thought, like, okay, Jesus, if you're this guy that's walking on the water, if you're not a ghost, if it's not just me, just hallucinating because I'm sheerly terrified, right? Make the storm stop. Prove to me that you're you by stopping the storm. But Peter, it's a crazy thought and request, but this is a guy who just has a strong faith in Jesus, is all I can guess and see from this. He says, Lord, please, you command me to come out to you on the water. And Jesus says, come. And so Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. Let me read it again. He said, come. So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. Think of how amazing that is. If you are familiar with this story, you've probably heard that before, and we kind of bash Peter in this story because of what's about to happen next. But never forget that Peter is the one that had the faith and the guts to say, Jesus is standing out in the middle of a stormy sea, and I have seen him walk on water, and I said, if it's you, tell me to come out to you. And he said, come, and I did it. I stepped out. And think of those first few steps that Peter takes, walking on top of the water. And he's staring at Jesus, probably terrified, but also like, I'm trusting him. I'm doing this, right? And he's looking right at Jesus, step after step. And he's being amazed and overwhelmed by what Jesus is allowing him to do, what is happening here. And he starts to look around in amazement, and he starts to see the waves crashing. He sees the wind whipping around. He looks back and sees his friends in the boat, terrified, huddled in the corner, and he starts to remember and think about, right, everything he should be afraid of. Verse 30 says, but when he saw the wind, he was afraid. When he saw the wind, like when he's looking at Jesus, he's good and he's doing it. But when he sees the wind, when he sees the storm, when he sees the problem, he starts to sink. For you and I, when we lose focus, right? Peter's problem wasn't that he looked at wind. The problem was he took his eyes off Jesus. For you and I, there are going to be hard times in life. We're going to be walking by faith in the middle of a storm, trusting only in Jesus. But the problem is when we take our eyes off of Jesus and see everything in our life that should be just disheartening, when we see everything in life that should be overwhelming, and we look at that instead of Jesus, we start to sink. It feels like life is crumbling around us. But the beauty of Jesus is this. Immediately, Jesus reaches out. Peter begins to sink, right? Verse 31, Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him. Jesus reaches his hand out when you are overwhelmed by things in life. He reaches out immediately and takes hold of you and says, oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt? What I think he's really saying, right, is, yes, you doubted because you looked at everything else and forgot about me. And the doubt came in when you saw everything and didn't see me. If you see me, your doubt is gone. You can look at me, and I crush all doubt. Faith crushes doubt all the time. Immediately, Jesus reaches out. Peter's failure, right? In the middle of his failure, in his failure to look at Jesus, just to stay focused on him, Jesus graciously reaches out to help and pulls him up. It's this picture of this father-son teachable moment of, hey, you failed here, you messed up, and you screwed up. And I love you enough to let's talk through this. Let's talk about that. And saying, you of little faith, it's not like Jesus like disappointed. He's saying, hey, you lost focus on me. You started to see everything else except for what I needed to do in your life. You were looking at all the things that are overwhelming, and you forgot about the one who's the calm in the middle of the storm, who you can fix your eyes on, you can look at and cling to, and you're going to make it through. And I will be with you in the middle of a storm. Be encouraged because I'm with you. Do not fear because I'm with you. You forgot I was with you. The storm didn't stop. Just interestingly enough, right? The storm didn't stop while they're having this conversation. It's still going on. Jesus shows up in the middle of our storm, and he teaches us a lot in the middle of hard things in life. Whether your parents are getting divorced, whether you're going through a difficult time with friends, whether you're going through a time of feeling lonely and isolated, whatever that is. It's hard, it's difficult. And Jesus shows up in the middle of that, but he also teaches us in those times too. And what he's teaching us is, hey, this is overwhelming to you, and I get that, and I know that. What I'm asking you to do is look at me. Jesus is saying, look at me, be encouraged because I'm with you. Don't be afraid because I'm with you. Trust me, I'm here with you. Focus on me, not the problem. That the problem was doubt, right? And doubt comes from focusing on circumstances instead of Jesus. That's just the way it is. And so often it's easy to look at those things. It's like, yeah, Jesus, I get that you're here, but do you understand what's going on in this part of my life? Do you understand this? And Jesus said, yeah, I know. I'm here in the middle of it. I need you to look at me, stay focused on me, and trust me. Verse 32, and when they got in the boat, the wind ceased. And those in the boat worshipped him, saying, truly, you are the Son of God. Think about, again, Peter gets a bad rap as the guy who didn't look at Jesus, but he's the only one that got out of the boat and trusted him in the first place. The other guys are huddled in the corner saying, is Peter crazy? Is he insane? Why is he getting out of the boat? And he has this moment with Jesus where Jesus is reminding him of, hey, doubt, thank you. Faith in me will sustain you in the middle of life crashing down around you. And I guarantee you, Peter never will forget that moment. And they get in the boat and it calms. The storm is gone. The wind ceased. Ceased to say a word, like it stopped. When Jesus steps into your life, he brings calm with him if you'll focus on him. The storm may be going on around you, but you will be at peace with him. And the thing is that when we focus on Jesus in the middle of our storm and allow him to teach us what he is looking to show us, that we need to put our trust in him fully and completely, even despite what's going on around us, when we do that, the result is what happens in verse 33, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, truly you are the Son of God. You're going to have a bigger and better view and picture of God if you trust him and stay focused on him in the middle of hard and difficult times in life. And the result will be worship and deeper worship because you have gone through a hard time. Your faith has been tried by difficulties, and your focus has remained on Jesus, and your faith is stronger and deeper. And it grows through hard times. And it results in worship. So the question, hard times, storms in life happen. Where is your focus? Is your focus on the difficulties and circumstances and hard things in life that surround us? Or is your focus on the God who calms storms? The God who says, be encouraged, I am here with you. Do not be afraid, I am here with you. Where is your focus? It should be on Jesus. It's hard not to see the storms, but that's why we spend time in God's Word. We get to know him so we can say, Jesus, I know you, I trust you. I'm looking at you in the middle of this. It's hard, it's difficult, I don't like it, I don't want to go through it, but I will focus on you. And my worship will be deeper because of it. My faith will be stronger because of it.